This is the HeadRush Podcast with Paul Frase and Corey Berry.
You are joining Paul Frase and Corey Berry at the HeadRush Podcast. And so I played 11 years in the NFL, and Corey rode professional rodeo for 9 years. We talk about everything related to brain trauma and brain health and wellness. And we talk about traumatic brain injury, CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. We talk about repeated head impacts and repeated blast exposures for our veterans. We talk about the symptoms of a CTE, or basically, we cover how traumatic brain injury can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. So, today, Corey, what are we going to talk about?
Snake oils of brain injury. In snake oil, Paul downloaded this and sent it to me, the informal North American English of snake oil, a substance with no real medicinal value sold as a remedy for all diseases, a product of policy, etc., of little real worth or value that is promoted as the solution to a problem. And
You
so
know,
we're
I
going to
like to
talk
be. You go ahead.
we're going to talk about some of the modalities that are being pushed out there that allow these people to think that, oh, if my kid wears this, he's got less of a chance for repeated head impact and concussion. If my son wears this, or if we do this on the side, we can save our son's life. I'm going to tell you right now, there's no safe age.
Hmm.
And me and Paul are very big. I believe, you're not going to end high school football. There's just too much money. It's big business like the NFL. What do you think, Paul?
I agree. Yeah, would we love to say, well, first of all, yes, Corey, there is no safe age. We want to make that crystal clear. There's no safe age to
Chris
play.
Boyce, did you hear us? We said there's no safe age.
There's no safe age to play these concussive sports because whether you start at 7 years old and put a helmet on, or whether you start at 14 years old and put a helmet on, or whether you wait until 18 years old, every repeated head exposure, repeated blast exposure, repeated head impact can and will eventually, if they add up enough, if you have thousands and thousands of hits over a sporting career, they will cause these symptoms that we talked about. So there's no safe age. I originally, when we started this almost a year and a half ago, Corey, I was like, you know what? I played. I'd have a hard time keeping my son. If my son had been an athlete, I would have a hard time saying no to him. It's a society issue. Sports are great and they do teach you wonderful things, but there's this little thing about repeated head impacts. But now that I'm learning the science of it, Corey, I really, gosh, it's almost like it's to the age of when you're old enough to make decisions on your own, or legally, the age of 18. You're out of the care of your parents, and you can make your own decisions. Yes, you're right, Corey. It's highly unlikely that football is gonna leave high school sports, and there's always
Well, all contact sports, not just high school, but high school rodeo, hockey, wrestling, all of it.
lacrosse. Right. You're right. You're right. So is there ever a safe age? No, there is not. Are there the research, and we'll talk about this a little bit, the research is showing that the damage comes from repeated head impacts. period. And if you're talking about CTE, post-mortem, you die, and then they discover CTE in your head, it's related to repeated head impacts.
So
So what do
let
you do?
me get this straight, Paul. We both agree wait until later years. If I had a son, I would not let them ride a bareback horse, a bull, saddle bronc, rough stock until they were minimum 15, just to
Hmm.
let the body structure, the bone density, to get muscle built, to get smarter, allowing the myelin sheath to start developing a little bit and start, but beforehand, we can do a lot of work on dummies. We can do a lot of work, groundwork. We can put them on a bareback horse that's broken and get them going over jumps. There's a lot of little things that we can do up until that point to get him ready. And I believe the same with football. You can put them in flag football. You can have them tackling dummy pads and all of that. And I think by doing that, what do they say? If you hold off till high school of putting your kid in a concussive sport, what do they say? 80% of CTE would be gone.
Well, no, 80% of the well, okay, so that 80% is just say you hit in high school sports or concussive sports, you hit the head 5 days a week. Um, and that includes the games. So if you take the impacts and the hits to the head out of practice, you can reduce the number of hits by 80%. So if you only hit 1 day a week, you're literally getting rid of 80% of the head impacts. Now, the NFL does it. Go figure. The NFL does it, but there's no rules in Pee Wee football and high school football. I think the high schools are just starting to get smarter and they're not hitting as much. But Pee
Well,
Wee
I know
football,
here in Stephenville, they still hit, but they all wear the guardian caps. So on to the snake oil.
yeah. So
You
really,
know,
really,
and Stephenville is state champs. And we have a college that is very high ranked as a D1 football team here too. And we got over 200 gold buckles in this city.
mm,
So, contact sports is part of Stephenville. Wrestling, everything. Rodeo, high school rodeo's huge, college rodeo's huge, everything's. So, let's get on to the snake oils and modalities and what I don't think will help your kid. And since I brought up that Stephenville uses guardian caps, let's start out with that. Now, you're a pro football player. You have more intellect than I do when it comes to helmets, the weight, what's new, how the helmets are developed. What are the helmets meant for? And then add in the guardian cap on top. So tell me your overall about the helmets first.
well, the helmets have changed, and I'm going to actually show you two helmets. Don't mind the logos, but we're talking about helmets. And I know we're talking about helmets crashing into each other a lot harder than that. So, and this helmet is so old it's starting to fall apart.
Well, that's
But
because you're old, Paul.
yeah, exactly. So the helmets, the Guardian cap is a mechanism or a pad that it covers the whole helmet, and there's like little cushions in there. I
But
don't
hold
know.
on a second, Paul.
Yeah.
What is that helmet meant to do? Why are they developing them? How much weight is it? And is that helmet itself built to reduce contact? or
Uh,
repeat head
it,
impacts and stopping your brain from
no,
slamming the skull?
no, you're supposed to use it as a weapon. Oh, you're not supposed to use it as a weapon, but we used it as a weapon, and we had huge gouges in our helmets. Now, the only reason helmets are made to stop the impact from crushing your skull. There's hard impacts in football, head-to-head impacts, and you will do damage. And these helmets are designed to protect you from breaking, literally breaking your skull. So that's what they're designed for. They're designed to protect your outer tissue. They are not. I guess what are they not designed for? There's no helmet that will stop your brain from moving inside your skull. Your brain is inside, the skull and your brain. And when you hit a wall fast, the brain keeps moving until it hits the inner edge of the skull. The brain keeps moving. The brain is like a soft butter, and it will keep moving until it hits and stops.
So my
No
question
helmet.
is, if you take a helmet and hit it to the ear hole of another helmet, which brain is going to take the most impact and what's going to cause the most damage?
Well,
And
both
that's
brains are
helmet to helmet, head to ear hole.
helmet to helmet. Both players are going to take the impact, and both brains are going to take the impact. Both brains are going to hit the side of the skull, or they are going to shake in the cerebral fluid, and they are going to jostle back and forth. Episode of the HeadRush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizell DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the HeadRush Podcast. And hormones. And Mizell is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizell DeMayo.
So please check out her website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program. Get involved.
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely.
She's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com.
That's just like with rodeo. Rodeo, the buck, you said 12 times in 8 seconds back and
on
forth.
an average.
On an average, and that's up to like 40 G's.
Oh, more
40
than that.
G's of 49, 50 G's of force. Boom, boom, boom. And you've got up to 24 swishes or head impacts, repeated head impacts in one 8-second ride.
And there's no such thing as guardian cap on a cowboy hat.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's why I'm taking the rodeo side out, because we wear, as bareback riders, some of us would wear a vest with a thin piece of foam on back, in back of the vest, and that keeps us from our back slamming against the flank strap, so we don't get. I used to have gouges in my back this deep from just rubbing on that flank strap.
Yeah.
And so I got that gelled pad and put it in. They build a vest, but we don't wear helmets because that's extra weight onto your head. So when you're getting jerked, you don't want an extra 3 pounds jostling you.
Right. Right.
So with the Guardian cap, it's gel packed, little patches all over the helmet. It's a one slip-on piece, correct?
Yeah,
But it
it's
has
a
little
piece of
squares.
headgear. Yeah.
Got little squares, so when it impacts, that gel is supposed to separate a little bit and
Hmm.
reduce the amount of force to hit the head.
It does. It does reduce the collision force by 10, they say, scientifically studied, they say in their testing 10 to 20%. It reduces the collision, but the collision still happens. The head still, the head, both heads still stop immediately, and both brains inside the helmets that hit and stop immediately, both brains hit the where the side of the head, the whatever part of the skull that they're contacted in, it hits. And even if it doesn't hit all the way, it's jostled. And let's go back to the percentages. So that we talked about 80, if you only hit 1 day a week instead of 5 days a week, you reduce the number of hits by 80%. They are from clinical studies, real science, peer-reviewed science. They, I believe, the percentages every year you play contact football. This is related to football, but you can relate it to other contact sports, I'm sure. Every year you play, you have another 29% probability of getting CTE after your playing days. So so there is absolute direct clinical information that says the more you hit your head in these small repeated head impacts, the greater chance you will have to get CTE, period. So let's go back to the 14 years old. Why wait until 14 years old? Why can't little Johnny put it on at 7? Every year they get hits, they increase their probabilities of severe mental health issues, severe brain damage, CTE. And in CTE, people might not say, well, that's not severe brain damage. Well, ask the caregivers. Ask the caregivers that have, been working with.
Ask
Um,
Galen, ask my wife.
yeah,
I'm sure
yeah,
they get frustrated with us sometimes. I know my wife does,
yeah.
and I'm sure Galen gets frustrated with you when you can't remember or something goes
Mm,
haywire or you forget a date or whatever, you
yeah.
know. And so
So
ask the people that's had repeated head impacts and their spouses. Mac Parkman lost his son at 17 to
mm,
repeated head impacts because he played a concussive sport 10 months out of the year.
yes,
And then you look at Patrick Risha, who died after playing college football. So this is happening to people that's never been professional. A matter
right.
of fact, in an upcoming episode, we're going to talk about someone that never made professional that has CTE and was diagnosed CTE. But so it reduces impact.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What's the G's, average G's of a football player doing head to head?
I don't know the average, but I think it gets up into the 40s. I've heard like 48, 49 G forces. And
So if it
you
reduces it by 10%, what is that?
no,
40,
take
39?
four, yeah, take 4.9 away. Right. Right. Well, this so interestingly, I did a little research on the Guardian website. they should obviously they tout very strongly that 10 to 20% reduction in the collision at the collision point, but nowhere does it say it stops the brain from getting affected by slamming against the side of your skull. Nowhere in their website does it say it keeps the brain from getting jostled or moving around. All it does is say at the point of an impact, it will lessen the blow 10 to 50 or 20%.
So
So
you play in NFL for 11 years. You've gone to the Super Bowl. You're one of the elites of football. You've made it to the highest realm you can make it. If they had guardian caps when you played, would you wear it? And would you allow your son, if a high school had repeated head impact practice every day of the week and game on Friday night, and they wore a guardian cap, would you allow your son to do that? The two questions. One, would you have wore the guardian cap and thought it was a protection mode for you? And two, would you allow your son to do what you know now about the guardian cap?
You've been told is all in your head, but deep down you know something is wrong. Listen closely. Brain fog, depression, anxiety, irritability, even PTSD. These are not just mental issues. They may be signals of neuroinflammation and hormonal disruption, root causes that traditional medicine often ignores. At the Millennium Health Centers, founded by Dr. Mark Gordon, they have helped veterans, athletes, and everyday people restore brain function using a medical process called the Millennium Protocol. Take their free brain health assessment at tbihelpnow.org and discover if inflammation, not weakness, is holding you back. You're not broken, you're unbalanced, and balance can be restored.
Now, knowing what I know now through research and peer-reviewed research, real science, I would, I would, I would be, I had a friend whose father was an orthopedic surgeon. I had two friends whose fathers were orthopedic surgeon. One, his father allowed him to play football, and he ended up playing offensive line for 9 or 10 years in the league. And he's 60, he's in his early 60s, and he's dealing with repeated head impact repercussions. Possible. Let's face it, it's probable CTE for many of us who played 20 years of organized football. The odds are staggering that we're going to succumb to the repeated head impacts and the CTE. But the other one, his father never let him play concussive sports. Never let him play football. I think he played soccer, but he never played football. So, and he's same age. He's doing much better than my other friend who is definitely dealing with repercussions of repeated head impact. So, knowing what I know now, Corey, I would, I don't want to say forbid, but I would tell my son to find another sport that would not involve hitting your head and not involve. I would say let's go to another concussive. Let's go to another sport that is not a concussive sport. And I would in that same breath, I would say if you love football and you want to work on agilities and things that would enable you to play when you are old enough to play, then by all means, we'll practice the agility drills. We'll practice running and catching the ball and tackling it with dummies. I mean, I don't know any other way to, because the bottom line is if your kid's brain, if you know when your kid is 30 years old and they're dealing with just horrible ADHD or ADD or and those two things can be due to a lot of different exposure to chemicals, exposure, eating bad diets, genetics, so on and so forth. But if it was caused by the repeated head impacts that I let my son play and I already knew that repeated head impacts could cause depression and anxiety, and I mean, then I would really be culpable for my son's mental health or daughter's mental health if they start suffering at 30 years old from mental health issues. So, are we supposed to protect our kids or let them? I mean, their life is dangerous, but
There's other ways to be a kid without purposely hitting your head.
right.
Riding bikes, jumping over ramps, doing all the other go-karts going down things. There's a million ways to bang your head, and I think I tried all 999,000 of them without football. Now, doing all of that and adding contact sports or wrestling or rodeo or whatever you do into that, it triples everything. So if you ask me if I had a son at 15 years old, I told him you ain't getting on a bareback horse till you're 15, but we're going to build up your neck muscles. We're going to build up your body. If you really want to do this, you're going to work at it like my daughter with tennis. When we first started, I bought her a $50 racket at Big Five. Prove to me you want to play. Next thing you know, 2 years later, I'm spending thousands of dollars on private lessons, taking her to tournaments, and $275 rackets and $100 shoes and everything. But prove to me you want to do it. So by proving it to me, I want you building your muscles, exercise, learning agility, learning ability, doing everything it takes to ride. Then at 15, we're going to do it because maybe you could get a scholarship as a bareback rider. There's a lot of them out there. So you get a scholarship. How many of the people from rodeo also go pro? Quite a few. But by the time you're 20, 25, most of them are dying down or quitting. So you're only in it 10 years. But it only takes one animal to kill you. So it is a dangerous sport. Football, if my son came out and said, I wanted to play football in high school, I'd say, okay, let's work on it until then. Let's get you in flag football, teach you agility, ability, get you going on that. But I would be at the practices, and I guarantee you, I'd be all over that coach and saying, my son is not getting hit Monday through Thursday and playing on Friday and getting hit too. My son, tell you what, let's have him hit on Wednesday or Tuesday, give him a couple days, and then hit again at the game on Friday.
I think you're definitely touching on what we talked about with StopCTE.org, the Patrick Risha Foundation. We actually did a little spot for them about they were trying to get to coaches. There are things you can do. Exactly what you said. Your agilities, work on your agilities, flag football, so on and so forth. And if you're gonna let your kids play, make sure the coaches know you don't need to hit 5 days a week. Maybe you need maybe you need one inside run hitting for 15 minutes on Tuesday. But that's all to show the toughness that it takes to, work on the running game, whatever. I don't know but yes, you can change practices. You do not have to, you can lessen the repeated head impacts. And that's what sports in high schools have to do. And Pee Wee football,
Goodbye.
um, goodbye, because knowing you mentioned myelin sheath, the myelin sheath in the brain doesn't, the prefrontal cortex is the last place in the brain that it develops, and it gives the brain somewhat of a little protection, or a little, it gives the axons of the axons a little bit of protection, but it's not even developed until 18, 20, 24 years old. So just remember, parents, little Johnny or little Susie, you're putting a helmet on them at 7 years old, and their brain is not even developed.
Well, look at it, Paul. You are suspected CTE. You played 20 years of organized football, high school, college, and then professional 11 years. Think about if you would have started playing at 7 years old.
Can't
You would
even
have had
imagine.
over 30 years of head impacts.
Can't imagine it. And that's why people, kids that they're finding CTE in kids that never played professional sports.
Because they got the 15 years in before they even get to the pros.
Right.
And at 1,000 head impacts a year on an average is what you say, right? Of
Yeah,
repeated
well,
head
they've
impacts.
they've they've done studies up to 1,500, 1,000 to 1,500 hits a year. We've had some doctors say no, it's much less than that. Well, they're still getting CTE, so is it less hits or more hits, whatever. But uh, if we just use the 1,000, then I have 18 to 20,000 hits, repeated head impacts. Over 20 years of organized football.
CTE.org proudly sponsors the HeadRush Podcast.
Karen and Doug Ziegel, they are founders. Karen founded the Patrick Risha CTE Awareness Foundation, and they are one of the most comprehensive websites regarding repeated head impacts and chronic traumatic encephalopathy. They work with legislature. They've been doing this for about 10 years.
They're the grandparents of CTE in my book. So don't knock it. StopCTE.org.
So just look, 7 to 17, 10
Right.
years at 1,000 impacts a year, that's 10,000 repeated head impacts by the time you're 17.
Right.
Now let's cut it out and say, okay, freshman year, 14 year, say 14. That's what everyone's kind of going off of, because we don't want our sports to go away. We don't want it to die. We love our sports. Hey, man, our world champions were at the White House yesterday in rodeo.
No, yeah, I saw that.
So I mean, I don't want our sport to die off and to go away, but I want to save our youth. So now let's say 14 years old, okay, 4 years, 18 years old, you graduate high school. From there, you're looking, I mean, from high school and the professionals for you in football, how many from high school make it to college?
Well,
Percentage.
the numbers kind of go. They kind the high school level is about 1.2 million, and then it goes down to about 100,000 in college, and then it literally goes to 224 guys that are drafted every year, and probably another 50 to 80 guys get a chance. But of those 224 that are drafted every year, probably 2/3 of them make the NFL.
So you look at it, 1 million
Yeah.
get 4 years of impact.
Right. Yeah.
Say you lower, and then you go to 100.
And well,
let's to college. So they got 8 years of repeated head impact. And out of them, 240 plus the walk-ons and practice squad or whatever. So say 300 go to the NFL. So you're reducing your repeated head impacts from 7 to 17, which is 10 years, to 14 to maybe 21 if you're one of the elites, 22 to 8 years.
And really quick, and go back, if the coaches limit the hitting by 60 to 80%,
you eliminated CTE.
Well, you've done a good job. You've done what would be logical and make sense to protect your kids. Period. And then we'd find out in the next 18 to 20 years if that was enough.
Right. And I mean, you look at it, life ain't fair, life ain't safe. I got in a car wreck after all my repeated head impacts, and it broke the camel's back. And now I'm all flubbered up. You know, how many times did I crash a go-kart and hit my head? How many times did I jump my BMX and land on the ground wrong? How many times was I skateboarding as a kid? How many times did I get bucked off my backyard horse as a kid? Things are going to happen if you're a kid. Things are going to happen. How many times were you running and tripped over a rock? I mean, or getting thrown in by a snowball. You know, I mean, things are going to happen. Water skiing, jet skiing, life happens.
Hey, the first time I remember a TBI for me, I was 9 or 10 years old, rolling down a snowbank and rolled right into a stack of concrete blocks that my dad had put there before the snowfall for our garage.
I think my first was at like 5 years old, and I remember skiing on ice because I was working for Mammoth Mountain Ski Resorts, and slipped and fell and bounced my head off the ice and knocked me unconscious.
Well, now let's talk about that, because that's not going to cause CTE, is it? You know, how many more of those hits do you need to take? In even less thousands. That's what they're finding. That's what they're finding in the science.
I'm pretty damn sure if you go back and look at the science, you could have 30 concussions in your life and not get CTE.
Probably.
As long as you let each concussion heal, get the inflammation under control, and get your body back to where it's at.
Yes, and there's also genetics involved with the buzzword of neuroplasticity and BDNF. There, some people have stronger factor of the BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which means you actually respond better and your brain heals faster from a head trauma or concussion. So there are genetics involved. There's absolutely the repetitive nature that's involved, but you don't get CTE from 1 or 2 or 5 concussions or maybe 10. That's not how you get CTE.
Now, one concussion can cause a TBI and screw you up for life, depending on what happens. You get a brain bleed, you get everything from one concussion.
Yes.
So, I mean, no matter what, we're not in a safe world. We don't live in bubbles. We don't follow the sheep. We don't put a mattress around our head to save ourselves. And you think about it, that helmet with that guardian cap on a 7-year-old. Let's go back to it.
Yeah.
How much does a football helmet weigh?
About 8 pounds, even in the young kids.
So 8 pounds plus a guardian cap is probably another pound
Yeah. And
or
then
two.
the friction that the Guardian cap causes when you're sliding, it's not plastic hitting plastic now. It's a cloth hitting cloth. So does it grab a little bit? I don't know.
Right. So at 7 years old, putting 10 pounds on your head and saying, Johnny, tackling. And we've all seen the videos that Chris Nowinski and everybody has put on showing that these coaches, man, these kids are just flat getting throttled.
Well, and that's a misconception that people, oh, well, the force is not, strong enough. Issues, they're young kids. They're only, 50 pounds. No, the force of the collision actually has been equated to that of the NFL and the G forces. And when you already brought up the neck muscles. You got a little bobblehead with 8 pounds, and then you boom, you hit, oh, and then you flash it back, and your brain is you're you're done. You're toast. I mean that those collisions, they're more vicious. Some of the ones that I saw Chris, from Chris Nowinski showing on his social media. Oh my gosh, some of these kids are taking the opponent's heads off. But
So, Guardian cap, snake oil.
Guardian cap will lessen lessen the blow by 10 to 20%, but it will not stop repeated head impacts. It will not stop your brain from moving and slamming into the side of your head. Snake oil. If you're saying Guardian caps will solve the problem of CTE, nope, not going to do it. Snake oil.
I call it snake oil. I think a parent goes out and spends $100 or however much them caps are. It's kind of like going out and buying dirt to rub on your boo-boo.
It's not. It hopefully parents are. It gives a false sense of security and safety, and that is not good. That is not right. There's no safe age, people. There's no safe age.
And that's it. So in our next episode or whatever, we'll talk about the Q collar, which again is my book, Snake Oil. But we'll have to do a deep dive into that and talk about that because we're almost up here.
Yeah.
But the Q collar, pinch vagus nerve, keep blood in your head while you play. Well, first of all, now you're keeping more blood in your head. So you're not getting the oxygenation and getting the flow. But here, I'm going to put on this little thing to push here, and it's going to stop me from getting a concussion.
Well,
Pucky.
the theory is you have more fluid in your brain and to soften the blow. It doesn't.
Well, I think after 500 impacts in the season, you got enough brain inflammation fluid that should reduce head impacts too, then, right?
Right.
But then the tau protein attacks your brain.
We need a whole nother episode for this one.
Yes,
All
we
right.
do. So thank you. And I hope you like this new shindig that we're going to do. And it's going to come to you every 2 weeks. And I think this one will be downloaded. Chris, why don't you come on and tell us what date that one will be?
Hey, gang. We're gonna be able to have this done next week.
So it'll be available
Monday,
not Monday, but the Monday after.
That is correct. This coming Monday we're going to have the drop with Tyler Ambrose. So we're going to have a week of that, and then we'll have this week, or this episode will be downloaded or dropped for next week coming up.
And ladies and gentlemen, Chris Wagner is as much of HeadRush Podcast as me and Paul. Chris Wagner is with Redbird Media. Go check him out on social media and do all of that. He is handling our SEO for YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. He's doing all of our social media now, and he's becoming a huge part. It's actually reduced my stress a little bit because I'm not having to post every day, even though I post. We're gonna get Paul more involved to where at least he's posting 2 to 3 times a week or something, or liking or sharing or doing whatever. But go to Redbird Media and check him out, folks, because let me tell you, he's been doing a good job for us and we're real happy. And now he's going to be editing and producing our every 2 week when we're not in studio. Paul?
Definitely, Chris Wagner. Thank you so much in Redbird Media. And like, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things you do out there in social media land to help our algorithms and help us get this important information out there, because there's over 3.5 million TBIs a year. And we know this information is not mainstream information. So please, please, please like and share, subscribe. And Corey, are we going to end with the signature, or you got?
I got one more thing. What else? HeadRush Podcast is now the official podcast for
The HeadRush Foundation.
HeadRush Foundation, coming soon to you to help out with your brain injury, TBI, and to help out with the modalities. We are in pending status. We're waiting to see where everything lands, but we are the official podcast for the HeadRush Foundation.
Right. And we're, again, Corey had mentioned that we are in this to help people that need help. And whether it's through modalities or resources or whatever we can do, that's what the HeadRush Foundation will help with. And yes, we are in pending status of a 501c3, and hopefully we will have the official 501c3 instated within weeks. So thank you, and get ready for more great content, and stay alert.
Stay alive.
Podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.